A desert is a place where there is no water. That's what we were taught from childhood. But in Israel today, something is happening that challenges the very logic of nature. In the very heart of sun-scorched sands, the emergence of a seaport is being planned. Not a lake, not a reservoir, but a real ocean port capable of receiving gigantic container ships. To make this possible, builders will have to move a volume of rock comparable to 13 Pyramids of Giza and pump more than 80 million cubic feet of seawater into the desert, forming an artificial body of water up to 50 feet deep. And this is only a small part of the plan. The project includes a new railway mainline, industrial zones, and infrastructure on such a scale that the total budget could exceed $20 billion. Why does Israel need all of this? What pushes the country toward one of the riskiest engineering experiments of the 21st century? Will this project become a new wonder of the world or go down in history as the country's biggest mistake? The answer is hidden further on. More than half of Israel's territory is desert. By land, the country is surrounded by states with which relations cannot be called stable or safe. That means one thing. Israel has almost no reliable overland trade routes. That is why 98% of all goods, from fuel and food to equipment and raw materials, enter the country by sea. The entire economy is literally tied to ships. The main flow of cargo goes through two giants, the ports of Ashdod and Haifa on the Mediterranean Sea. But there is one problem you cannot get around. Every vessel heading to Israel is forced to pass through the Suez Canal, a narrow corridor more than 190 kilometers long and only about 200 meters wide. This is a critical point for all global trade, and today it is becoming more and more dangerous. Modern megaships, such as Ever Given, exceed 400 meters in length and rise almost 60 meters above the water. In such conditions, even the slightest mistake turns the canal into a bottleneck for the global economy. The world has already seen what happens when Suez stops. In 2021, a single stuck ship paralyzed trade for 6 days. More than 400 ships lined up in a queue. Global losses amounted to $9.6 billion per day. In just 5 days, the world lost a sum comparable to half of Israel's annual GDP. And this was not an isolated case. After the War of 1967, Egypt completely closed the canal for 8 years. Ships were forced to make a detour of 4,000 nautical miles. That's like driving from New York to Los Angeles and back. Today, the situation is no less alarming. In 2024, more than 2,000 ships went around the Cape of Good Hope, adding up to 2 weeks to the route. But the most dangerous thing is something else. Suez is controlled not by Israel. Egypt can at any moment raise tariffs, restrict traffic, or block the passage. And it does. Today, one transit through the canal can cost up to $700,000, more than 10 times more expensive than 20 years ago. Israel has found itself in a logistics trap. When Suez began turning from a solution into a problem, Israel looked south. There, on the shore of the Red Sea, is its only window into an alternative trade route, the city of Eilat. On a map, it looks perfect, but in reality, almost useless. Eilat is tiny. It stretches only 11 kilometers and is literally squeezed between cliffs, international borders, and the narrow Gulf of Aqaba, which is shared by Israel, Jordan, and Egypt. There is practically nowhere to expand. The port of Eilat is capable of handling only about 50,000 containers a year. For comparison, the port of Haifa processes 1,460,000, almost 30 times more. But the problem is not only volume. The depth at Eilat's berths is only about 12 meters. Modern container ships require at least 17 meters. The giants of world trade simply cannot physically enter there. And even if they could, then a new catastrophe begins. Eilat has no railway. Everything that arrives at the port must be delivered by trucks through 240 kilometers of the Negev desert to Tel Aviv and Jerusalem. This makes transportation 2 times and sometimes 3 times more expensive. The government proposed building a railway 155 miles long with 60 bridges and tunnels for $8 billion. 10 years have passed. Not a single rail has appeared on the ground. And then Israel ran into yet another wall. Eilat is not just a port, it is the country's main resort. The best beaches, hotels, diving centers, and the northernmost coral reef on the planet are located here. Every year, more than 3 million tourists come here. Expanding the port would mean destroying this economy. Therefore, the authorities came to a radical conclusion. If the port cannot be expanded here, it must be moved. And not just moved, but create a new one in the desert. A few kilometers north of Eilat, near the Jordanian border, what until recently was considered madness is being planned. The Southern Gateways project. Here, an artificial sea basin almost 8 kilometers long, more than 300 meters wide, and deep enough for the largest ships in the world will be dug out. 80 million cubic feet of water from the Gulf of Aqaba will be pumped into it. To do this, more than 100 million tons of rock and soil will have to be moved, the same amount as is contained in 13 Pyramids of Giza. The desert must turn into a sea. For this gigantic pit in the ground to truly become a seaport, water alone is not enough. Israel will have to create an engineering system comparable in complexity to the organism of a living creature. From the Gulf of Aqaba into the desert, an underground pipeline more than 8 kilometers long will be laid. Through it, the most powerful pumps, consuming gigawatts of energy, will continuously pump seawater into the basin, maintaining a stable level, as if the desert port were connected to the ocean by an invisible artery. The bottom of the excavation will be covered with special waterproof layers so that salty water does not penetrate the desert's underground horizons and does not poison the soils. A system of valves, backup pumps, and 24-hour stations will work like an artificial heart. A shutdown even for a short time can turn into a catastrophe. By its concept, this port is supposed to become something like an inland sea created by human hands. By scale, it is compared to mega-projects like Saudi Neom or Dubai's Jebel Ali. Only here everything will be built not by the water, but inside the scorching desert. But this dream has a dark side. Salt water, heat, wind, and sand create a deadly mixture for metal and concrete. Evaporation will be constant. Corrosion, aggressive. And any breach of waterproofing can lead to the salinization of vast territories. Maintenance of such an object alone is estimated at more than $1 billion for each decade. And yet, even if the port is built, without one key element, it will remain just a beautiful lake in the middle of the sands. A port by itself solves nothing. Goods must leave it as quickly as they arrive. And here appears the second, no less grand element of the project. A desert railway 155 miles long. It must connect the new port with Be'er Sheva, the industrial heart of southern Israel, and then go directly to Tel Aviv and Jerusalem. If you look at satellite images of the Negev, you will see nothing there except stones, wind, and the shadows of dunes. But it is precisely through this dead landscape that a steel line of life will be laid. Engineers will have to build more than 60 bridges, tunnels, and viaducts, literally stitching the desert together with metallic threads. The railway part alone is estimated at $8 billion, almost half the cost of the entire Southern Gateways program. For comparison, this is roughly the same as the cost of the entire California high-speed rail between San Francisco and Bakersfield. And all of this in order to connect an artificial ocean with the country's economic center. If the plan works, freight trains will be able to cover the path from the Red Sea to the Mediterranean in just 2.5 hours, carrying more than 10 million tons of cargo annually. This means something historic. For the first time, Israel will get a Polnitseny overland trade bridge between Asia and Europe. Goods will be able to arrive from India, China, and Southeast Asia to the Red Sea, then cross Israel by rail and go further to Europe, bypassing Suez. Such a route will shorten delivery by more than 10 days and save millions of dollars on fuel. For world trade, this could become an alternative artery capable of unloading one of the most dangerous choke points on the planet. But for Israel itself, the stakes are even higher. In the country, this project is perceived not simply as logistics. For many, it is a national rebirth of the desert. Moving the port inland will make it possible to free up Eilat's coastline. More than 400 acres of prime coastal land will be turned into resorts, parks, residential neighborhoods, and public beaches. The city can become the Miami of the Middle East. According to estimates by Israel's Ministry of Tourism, revenues from the tourism sector could grow by $1.5 billion per year, 4 times more than the old port brings. Eilat's population is supposed to increase from 55,000 to 80,000 people, opening a new chapter for the south of the country. But not only resorts will benefit. Today, 90% of all Israeli cargo passes through 2 overloaded ports, Haifa and Ashdod. Because of traffic jams, delays, and a lack of capacity, the economy loses more than $700 million annually. The launch of southern gateways is supposed to reduce the load on the northern ports and cut customs clearance time by 30 to 40%. Cargo from Asia will be able to come through the Red Sea without filling the Mediterranean terminals. And, perhaps most importantly, Israel will become less dependent on the Suez Canal, through which about 65% of all imports now pass. On paper, Southern Gateways looks like an engineering miracle, but in reality, everything comes down to one simple question: who will pay for it? The Desert Railway alone is already estimated today at more than $10 billion. Add to this the digging of a gigantic basin, pumping stations, pipelines, terminals, berths, energy infrastructure, and the total budget easily reaches from $15 to $20 billion. To understand the scale, this is 3 times larger than Israel's annual defense budget and roughly 700 times more expensive than building the Golden Gate Bridge in the United States. These are investments on the level of world superpowers. And even if the port is built, Israel will not become completely free. Ships still have to go through the Red Sea, a region where one rocket or one military incident can shake the entire global oil and freight market. In other words, Israel can try to bypass Suez, but it cannot bypass war. At the same time, the country has already invested more than $2.3 billion in modernizing its existing ports, Haifa and Ashdod. And if Southern Gateways is never implemented, those investments will turn out to be far more rational than building an artificial sea in the desert. There is another enemy with whom it is impossible to negotiate. It is nature itself. The Gulf of Aqaba is home to the northernmost coral reef on the planet. It has existed for more than 7,000 years. This is a unique ecosystem that has survived ice ages and climate catastrophes. One leak, while pumping millions of tons of seawater, can destroy it forever. Desert temperatures reach 43 degrees Celsius. This means accelerated evaporation of water, constant corrosion of metal, and a sharp rise in maintenance costs. According to calculations, keeping this artificial port in working condition will cost more than $1 billion every 10 years, simply so that it does not fall apart. It is here that the grand dream begins to crack. After all the drawings, presentations, political statements, and international negotiations, the main question arises: so what has already been built? The answer: nothing. At the time of the release of this film, not a single stone has been laid. No cranes, no rails, no docks. There is only an empty plot between Eilat and the Jordanian border, where the wind drives sand around geodetic markers. The project is stuck at the pre-design assessment stage, where they calculate payback, risks, and technical feasibility. And each new calculation shows the same thing: the cost continues to rise. There is one more irony. To build southern gateways, Israel will have to bring in equipment, materials, specialists through Egypt and Jordan, the very countries from whose dependence the project is supposed to free it. It turns into a strange paradox. A port for independence must be built with the help of those from whom you want to become independent. And investors understand this perfectly. Private capital does not like uncertainty. And here there are more risks than potential profit. One high-ranking official anonymously admitted, the project is not dead. it is in a state of hibernation. When Southern Gateways was announced, Israel split into two camps. Some call it a historic leap, a chance to break free from Suez's suffocating grip. Others say it directly: we are trying to build Dubai in the desert without having oil. In Tel Aviv, logistics companies are enthusiastic. They see in this project an opportunity to turn Israel into a new hub of global trade between Asia and Europe. One expert even said, if Suez is the heart of world trade, then Southern Gateways can become its lungs, allowing the system to breathe when the heart is blocked. But in Eilat, the moods are completely different. For the residents of Eilat, this project looks nothing like a national rebirth. For them, it is a threat to the most valuable thing they have. Eilat is the only real beach paradise of Israel. The city lives off hotels, diving, yachts, coral reefs, and the chisty water of the Red Sea. That is why hotel owners, diving instructors, and eco-activists and ecologists have united against the project. Their main slogan sounds simple: you cannot drain the sea and at the same time keep it blue. In 2025, a survey showed that 62% of Eilat's residents oppose expanding the port or the appearance of major industrial infrastructure in this area. For them, this is not abstract geopolitics. These are their homes, their work, and their future. While disputes continue inside Israel, the outside world is closely watching what is happening. The first to show interest were the United Arab Emirates and India. A new route through the Red Sea and Israel can shorten the path from Mumbai to Europe by 10 to 12 days. South Korea and Japan are also watching the project, considering it as a backup entry into Europe if Suez is blocked again. But there is a country that looks at Southern Gateways with trevoggy. It is Egypt. Even a drop in Suez Canal traffic of only 10% means a loss of more than $700 million per year. For Cairo, this is not just competition. It is a Uda to the economy. International media have already dubbed this confrontation the secret race between the desert and the pyramids. On one side is Egypt, expanding a real canal through which global trade passes. On the other is Israel, trying to create a new path, literally digging it out in the sand. One builds out of water, the other out of emptiness. And now the world is watching whose strategy will turn out to be stronger. So who will win this trade war? The one who already has a real canal, or the one who dared to dig his own in the most inhospitable place on Earth? If you had to place a bet, would you choose water or the desert? Write in the comments whose side you are on, and if you want to continue discovering the most incredible projects, hidden battles, and mega construction sites that people rarely talk about, subscribe, hit like, and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next documentary episode.